Hello average anglers, welcome to another average angler video. We're in the average angler shed today. We're looking at repairing a landing net handle. So a little bit of background for you. Whilst I was fishing recently, and I always put my landing net between my box and the legs on my box, so it's like right by my left hand so I can just pick it up. That's where it was resting whilst I was setting up and walking around my box, I kicked it. It should have snapped it clean and off, but it's quite strong and it didn't. It cracked it, and it cracked it just here where these white marks are. So these white marks have been made by this rubber crayon that I've got, just so that you can see the extent of the cracks. There's 3 defined cracks, 4 cracks there, and that's what those 4 lines are. This carries a lot of weight, you know, a lot of force. This is the middle section out of the 3 sections. I want to try and repair it. I haven't done this before, so I'm not saying, hey, watch this, this is how to repair it. What I'm going to do is show you what I'm going to do to try and repair it. I'm going to repair it similar to how I would repair a pole section, but a little bit beefed up. And then over the next few weeks and months, you can watch me using it in my videos and we'll see whether it works or not. And we can come back to it in 6 months and I can do a little review on whether it was successful or not. Right, let's have a bit more of a zoomed in view so we can see what's going on. So you can see the white lines, they're the cracks, they represent the cracks. But if you noticed, all the 4 white lines, they seem to end in the same place. I don't know if it's picking it up on the camera, but that is because this part here, you can see, is thicker than this part here. And that is because this is where the next section of the part of the landing net handle pushes onto. So it's been thickened for strength and wear probably. So what's happened is, as the cracks have propagated, they've hit this thicker section and they've stopped, which is good because it means, I'm hoping that means that this thicker section is going to continue to stop the cracks propagating in this direction. This line here represents the edge of one of these cracks. If I press on the crack hard with my thumb, I can see like just under the surface, the crack gets to about there. So I've put a line saying that's about as far as I can see damage, but there might be a bit more that I can't see. Okay, so I want to overlap that damage because I want to make sure I'm past the edge of the crack to try and stop it from propagating. In this direction, there's another line. This line here, he represents the end of where the next section pushes onto. So when I want obviously when I wrap this up, I still want to be able to use the next section. So I know that I can't go over that line with any carbon wrap or resin, otherwise I'll increase the diameter and I won't be able to push my next section on properly. So that becomes the limit of where I can go on the right. Now, I'd like to overlap a crack normally a little bit more than that, but I can't. But I'm quite confident that I'll get away with it, like I said, because I've got this extra thickness material here. I'm hoping that will be enough. And so this side will only be overlapping the crack like an inch or so, whereas this side will overlap the crack maybe 2 or 3 inches, just to make sure. That's how I've decided what length of repair needs to be done. Now, those of you that have watched my channel before will have seen me, or those of you that have watched lots of videos on my channel will have seen me repair pole sections before. And I get a kit online, and I'll put a link in the description below where to get this kit from. And it's approximately 30 quid. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'll probably put it on the screen. And you get the bits that you need to repair a pole. And you get some of this material, which is like a woven carbon strands. And what you do is you wrap that round, you mix it in with some resins. It goes hard, and that's what happens. Now, when we'll go through the detail a bit more when we're doing it. But when you do a pole, you just do double wrap. You go around twice, and that's to give you added security. Obviously, a landing net handle is beefier, stronger. I'm not worried about adding a little bit of weight on something that's only 2 meters out. It's not going to cause me, it's not like a pole where if I had loads and loads of wraps on the end of a pole and then ship it out to 16 meters, I've got this really heavy thing on the end of the pole. I want this to be strong. Strength is the priority over it being a little bit lighter than it was. So I'm going to go wrap it 4 times, okay? Now also what I've noticed with this is, what you'll notice with this is it's very thin on diameter. That there is like a top kit, like the thick end of a top kit, perhaps slightly bigger than the thick end of a top kit. And in my experience of doing a few pole repairs in the past, the problem that you get with this material when it comes off is you can see it sort of has a memory to it, and it's following that radius of the diameter of that roll that's been kept on, which means that when you're trying to wrap it on something tighter, it keeps trying to come undone on you, which can be a pain. So what I've done overnight is I've measured out my length of carbon, my carbon material, that I require, and I've wrapped it tightly around a smaller diameter part of the landing net handle. So this is the really thin end, and I've left that on there. So I'm hoping that when I take that off, that will be a tighter radius because it's picked up a bit of memory, and it'll actually want to grip onto the say grip. It'll actually want to follow that contour. You'll see later what I mean, but yeah, that's what I'm hoping will happen. So that's a little tip that you might not have picked up from my previous videos, but I'm going to give you the whole process on this video again anyway. So if you have seen the pole repair videos, it's basically just the same as the pole repair, but we're wrapping it 4 times. But for those that haven't, carry on watching, because I'm going to go through the whole process. Right, we've moved on a little bit, and I just want to talk to you about how we've got to this stage. I've put tape up against these edges. This is just insulation tape, and then I've wrapped it going away at each end of the repair, so that if I touch it with a bit, if I get a bit of resin on it or something, it doesn't like make fingerprints, because it's horrible if you do that. This is how the carbon weaved material, the woven carbon material, arrives. If you're going to use the full width of that for your repair, you can just line that up there, and then you can just put your tape there, and then you know that you've got the full width. Give yourself a little bit of space, like an extra couple of mil either side. But if you can see from the camera angle that you're at, I haven't quite used the full width of the material. What I've done on my piece is I've narrowed it down a little bit, because I feel like that's more than enough. If that's not enough, then adding another inch ain't going to make a difference. And then the other thing you've got to do is get the right length of material. You want to get the right length of material and cut it so that it wraps around 4 times. Well, I'm going to go for 4 times. You could go for 5 times if you want. You could go for 3 times. It's up to you. And what I do is I normally pull off a little strand of the weave, because there's always little strands hanging off. And then I hold it against the section that I'm going to repair. I do this with a pole as well. And I go round 1, 2, 3, 4 times like that. And then if you've got some scissors, you cut it there, and that length that you've got there is the length that you need to go around 4 times. And then you can just hold that against your material that you've got in your kit, and then you just pull it tight and cut it to the right length. That gives you just like a measure. It's like a measuring device without measuring, without numbers. That's the perfect measuring device. How long is it? You go, oh, it's that long. Perfect. So that's how I got to this piece, which is now being wrapped around there to keep it tight, as I mentioned before. And then what I've done is I've held that up against there to measure that, to get that right. So that's how we got to this stage. The final thing that we've done, whilst the cameras have been off, is in the kit you'll get some resin and you'll get some hardener. Okay, you mix them together, 1 part hardener to 3 parts resin. That's why it's 3 times bigger. And you've got to mix them thoroughly so that they're thoroughly mixed. You do not want a lot, you want a very small amount. Now normally what I would do is if this was a pole section, I'd rough it up and give it some texture, but this has got a lot of texture to it, this landing net handle, so I don't need to do that. Yeah, make sure you mix it well, make sure it's not too cold. This product and this whole repair needs to happen, according to the packaging, between 15 and 25 degrees. In the kit you'll get a little tiny brush, cheap brush, even cheaper than this one. That's good, but once you use it for this stage, you can't use it for the next stage. So get yourself an extra couple of paintbrushes. Don't buy expensive ones. Go down the pound shop, buy the cheapest ones that are going, okay? Because they're going to be wrecked after this. And all you've got to do is brush some resin onto the section. And you're just trying to wet it through so that the whole bit has got some resin on, and then over the next couple of hours that resin's going to start to set and go tacky, and then what that does is it helps us start our wraps, because this is tacky. When we start using it, it's tacky. It holds the wrap in place, and then we can wrap around more, and we stand a chance of actually getting it to stick, which is sometimes a challenge. That's it, I've literally used everything I got there. I used such a small amount. There's nothing more to do now. Sometimes you need to come back every now and again and twist it, because that resin will, with gravity, start to work around and ends up forming a little drip on the other side. So every sort of half an hour come and then just spin it round 180 degrees, so that the drips at the top, and slowly it'll peter out again. Just want to talk quickly about my setup. This is a piece of sponge that came in some packaging I had years ago, and I've cut some V's in it with a Stanley knife blade, which because I use it a lot for putting pole sections on my workbench. I've got another piece of foam the same size out of shot just past the back of the camera holding it all. I want it off the ground, I want it off the work surface so I can get my hands around it, and which is going to be important for the next phase as well. I don't want anything touching it or getting it dirty, and I don't want the resin on there to touch anything else. I want it right. So the beauty as well is that little notch just stops it all twisting and stops it rolling. So you've got to come up with a setup that does that, whatever works for you. So what you get in your pack is a resin. You get resin and one hardener. These are old ones, a bit dirty and messy. It's a new one there, look. And the latest kit that I just bought. I tend to find that I run out of this way before I run out of hardener. You also get some tape, which is very important for later. This is special tape for wrapping the repair with. It doesn't allow the resin to stick to it. You'll see that later in the video. You get this plastic scraper, which I've never ever used. I've got loads of those. And you also get some little wooden stirrers, which as long as you wipe them off after you finish with them, you can just keep reusing them. Just dropped my other one down here. There he is. Just dropped him on the floor, not on the floor, but into a ground bait bowl. So that's pretty much what you get with the kit. You also get like gloves, a pot, but you might notice that I've got different pots in here. I've got an old yogurt pot here which has been used multiple times, so you can see it looks messy, but that bottom there is all rock hard set resin, so I'll just put my next mix on top of it because it doesn't affect anything. That's it really. Like I say, I'll leave a description in the link below. I'll give you a link in the description below, should I say, and you can find this kit. I've used this kit so many times now that I'm happy that it's okay for the job and it's reasonable price. It's been a bit over 3 hours. This brush, you can see, it's dead like I said it would be. Started to glue that together so that can go in the bin. This is tacky to the touch now. So I want to mix up some fresh resin. I'm going to use the same tub because it's still a little bit damp in the bottom of that tub from the last one. So I'm going to use a different container. Well, a little bit more this time. We're doing 3 to 1, so you got to try to. I'm doing it by eye, but you're better off weighing it. But I've got quite a lot of confidence in using this now, so I'm not bothering with that. This next stage, you want to get a few pieces of plastic. I was going to say then, a few pieces of tape, and get them ready so that they're out of the way. Ideally, you want to wear the gloves if you can. I'm not going to bother because they won't fit me. I've got like size triple Z hands or whatever. My hands are massive. Nothing ever fits. So here's my piece that I pre-cut. So remember I showed you how I wrapped that round and I cut it. And I've cut it so it's ever so slightly smaller than the area that I've coated. And that's because we do get a bit of overspill as part of the process, but you'll see what I mean. So I've put the two things in there, but what I haven't done is mix them. They've got to be mixed. So put those two ingredients in there, mix them. The resin and your hardener, mix. Okay, that's sorted. That's very, very mixed. Now all we've got to simply do is take this little bit of tape off that's keeping this. So I've kept it round really tight so it's a similar diameter to the item that we're repairing. It's a little trick I learned after doing this a few times with a few different things. It's best to leave that overnight to get that working properly, and then what you want to do is just drop it on square as you can, and just touch the back of it with your finger or with a brush, and it should want to stick. You can brush it on with your paintbrush, and if it's tacky enough, it'll want to stick to that. This is what I say, it tries to come unpeeled quite a lot. Sometimes it's easier than others to get it to stick. So we've gone round at least once now. Onto the second layer now. Once you're onto your second layer, make sure your first layer is tight. Just come up a little bit there, it's nice and tight now. First layer's on nice and tight. Just put a very small amount of resin on top of the cloth. Remember to go underneath that first wrap. You can use that bit of resin to help it stay flat, that new bit of resin. Always getting this first bit is the hard bit. Never wants to stick on these tight radius things. Once you've got it, you've got it. You want to put plenty of resin on the layer underneath and just wrap that layer around. Get another layer in. You'll see the resin's coming through. Put a bit more on and then try and get another wrap in. And you're constantly trying to stick it to the wrap below. Now, you ain't got to go mad with the resin because you're going to try and squeeze most of it out, and by the next phase you're going to squeeze all that resin into what I've done here is I made a little bit of a mistake and I left like a little bit of material on there, stitching that's used to stop the thing from going undone. I've left him on by accident, so I'm just cutting him off. See, I'll look rubbish else. And just keep strapping it round, making sure there's plenty of resin. Just making sure it looks well soaked. You get odd strands, loose bits, just get rid of them. And you might find you can't ever get that last bit to sit down properly. Don't worry about that either. Pull these loose bits off. Any loose bits like that, just pull them off. It's not the end of the world. Because you've got 4 wraps, it just generally, in my experience, doesn't want to sit. I'll put it in a position where it's trying not to come undone too much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and force it to lie down by wrapping over the top of it. So when you get your wrap, you get a little bit of tape. Get rid of that bit because that won't be strong enough. Come away from the edge. You want the inside of the tape, which is the part of the tape that's facing the middle, towards the middle, to be the inside of your pole like that. Or your not your pole in this instance, it's your landing net handle. And I'm wrapping it as tightly as I can. I'm holding it very, very tight. Can't be too tight with this because it's a very strong section, so you can just lean on it as much as you want. And just really press on it hard. And you can see that resin coming out, so you know you've pushed that resin all the way through that carbon fabric. And that's all you want. You don't want any, you just want just enough resin in there to get to all the carbon strands, and if you have too much you just end up with loads of it at the end and it looks a mess. And you want to wrap a little bit over onto your tape. A bit of tape on, keep it tight still. And that is that. That now just needs to be left for 24 hours, and in the morning you can whip all that off, whip it all off, and the repair will be done. Right, there we are, waiting to see what the results were. Things didn't quite go to plan there, and it was a bit of a fiddle trying to get the wraps to wrap tightly. Didn't quite get enough resin on to get it to tack down properly at the start. I think that might have been an issue, and also this stuff doesn't really want like it. Maybe I should have left this for several days wrapped on there. Could try heating it up or something so that it follows that tighter contour, but it definitely wanted to curl back and it kept coming off, and I couldn't get it to lie flat, and so I had to kind of start wrapping before I've got it all to lie flat. But I feel like I've got away with it. We'll find out soon. If you want to have a look at the kit, if you want to get yourself a kit, about 30 quid-ish last time I looked. They're either 29.99 or 32.99, somewhere around that sort of price. You get loads of you get the ability to repair quite a few sections, or do loads of top kits if you're doing side pullers or whatever. And like I say, I've got 3 videos now on the channel showing me using it, so you've got all the information you need. Again, I'll leave a description for those and a link for those in the description, should I say. And that's it. Yeah, it didn't quite go to plan, but I quite like that it didn't go to plan, because you know there's too many videos out there where everything's perfect, and then when you try and do it, it's not perfect. So you can see there things didn't go perfectly, but I just went with it and used a bit of experience and a bit of nous and just got through it. Right then everyone, just got back. It's 24 hours later. You can see here that we've got some drips that have gone hard. That's the resin. Don't feel like it's fully set yet, that resin. But he wants a bit more time, but it was set enough to take the wrapping off. So I wrapped it from that side to that side, so I've got to find the end here, which is hard to do because I've got insulation tape on top of insulation tape. But somewhere here's the end, I think that's it. So what you do is you just unwrap the tape that you use to put around. You can see just all these grips and that, and all the bits of resin that are sticking out, they just come off nice and simple. It's not hard to get off.
Just unwrap that for you quickly.
There you are. You can see now on the camera there the repair that you get. Let's just check that that's in shot. There it is. Lovely repair. The lighting's not brilliant at the moment because I'm relying on the internal light in the shed because it's getting a bit dark. Now that's quite shiny compared to the rest of the pole. The choice is yours at this point, where you can leave it as it is, or you can lightly sand it down, just trying to take the sheen off. It's up to you. You can, what a lot of people do is lightly sand it down, take the sheen off, and then lacquer it, which gives it like a sort of semi-gloss finish, not quite so shiny. It's entirely up to you on this. If you want the strongest possible repair that you can possibly have, and you just leave it as it is. I think if you sand it back, you'll probably still have a very, very similar strength repair. I don't think it compromises the strength that much, but it obviously, to my mind, it can't be as strong if you've taken a little bit of material away, but I don't think it's enough that it's going to create a failure that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have. You know, if it's going to fail, it's going to fail anyway, is what I'm trying to say. So you can see, I want to try and get on the camera again for you. But those bits of tape give you a lovely, nice, clean finish, and you can just see the mark from the pen is still there, and the resin stops. You can see the shiny resin, and then the matte finish of the. Looks like there's a bit of resin or something there. Maybe a bit of resin's gone through the tape there. I'm not sure. It's peeling off, whatever it is. So it might just be some tape, or maybe when I've wrapped over, I've pushed some resin underneath that tape. But we'll see. I'll see if the sections go together now. We'll see if it'll cause myself an issue. If it's not a big issue, I will be able to get it off. If it's not, there we are. No problem. So it all still fits together. And all I've got to do now is see whether or not over time, whether this is strong enough to stop it breaking. I think it's going to be fine. Now I've seen the repair. So this is the repair section. I haven't shown you. I'm not sure if you caught it on camera there. So I'm pretty sure now it's going to be fine. And I was going to rub it down, but I think I might just leave it. I don't think it really matters that much. Feels like it's work to do. It's just for no point. If you're worried about it, what it looks like, or whether anyone's going to notice that it's repaired, then you can rub it down. Sometimes you'll get a sharp edge from like from the resin, but to me that doesn't feel like there's any sharp edges there. So next time you'll see this, it'll be out in the bank with me, which it will be tomorrow actually. I'm going to ship late tomorrow on the Thursday Open. Hope to catch some big lumps there and maybe a few skimmers as well, so we can put it to the test. Let's see how we get on with it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to watch if you're interested in watching how to do a repair on a pole section, then watch this video that's coming up now on the screen. Thanks a lot, guys.